Episode 6, Keep Your Enemies Closer. We start this episode at Queen Consolidated. Isabel is yelling at Oliver because he was late for another meeting. Oh my god, get serious, Oliver, you're supposed to be the CEO. And then Felicity shows up and she's like, yo, Oliver, we have a Roy-related problem. Apparently there's some kind of, nefarious deal happening, and Roy has taken it upon himself to try and break it up. Oliver suits up as the Hood, and Diggle also comes with, and they try and help Roy and stop this little deal. Roy ends up getting arrested, and then Diggle ends up getting kidnapped. Title screen. Diggle's kidnapper is none other than the iconic, the sexy, the beautiful Amanda Waller. Something about Amanda Waller? She always wears red high heels. Amanda Waller is the head of Argus. It's a United States government-run group. It's an organization. I don't know what the fuck Argus stands for. Amanda Waller runs Argus. Lila works for Argus. Diggle and Lila are associates. So Amanda comes to Diggle because Lila is missing. Lila went on a quest, a Floyd Lawton-related quest, and she has not been seen back. She's gone MIA, she's gone dark. So Amanda went to Diggle for help because she knows about Oliver Queen being the Hood. She wants their help to find Lila. Lila's last known location, somewhere in Russia. At the police station, Lance lets Roy go once Roy reveals that he is helping the vigilante. Because remember, Detective Lance is now besties with the vigilante. So since Roy is also besties with the vigilante, Lance is like, okay, kid, you're free to go, but don't let me catch you again. Oliver and Felicity find out about John's whole Lila in Moscow situation. Diggle does eventually agree to let Team Arrow come help him find Lila. In an island flashback, we learn that Dr. Anthony Ivo is trying to find this gobbledygook called Mirakuru, okay? It's Japanese, means miracle, but they are going to pronounce it as Mirakuru for the entire show. Ivo is like, I'm looking for the Mirakuru. I know it's on this fucking island. Oliver, I need you to lead me to it, okay? Oliver doesn't want to help Ivo. Duh. But I was so distracted by Sarah Lance and how blue her eyes are that I didn't really pay attention to much else in the scene. Team Arrow is about to board the Queen Consolidated Company airplane, but oh, what's this? Isabel Roshev heard that Oliver was about to take off, and she's here too because she thinks that Oliver is going to Russia to do some Queen Consolidated business. Isabel has absolutely no idea about the whole Lila Argus situation, so now Diggle, Oliver, Felicity, and Isabel are all heading to Russia together. When we land at the Moscow airport, Isabel reveals to Oliver that she believes that Oliver and Felicity are hooking up, okay? Everyone in the office thinks that. She's like, why else would you make Felicity your personal assistant, your little secretary, when she should be in IT? It doesn't really make sense unless you're screwing her. And Oliver tries to deny this because obviously him and Felicity are not hooking up. This is crazy, okay? So Jean, Moira's lawyer, Jean shows up at Verdant and she says, hey, Thea, I need you to break up with Roy because Roy just got arrested, and you dating a dude who just got arrested is not gonna look good for your mom's case. We're back in Russia. Oliver and Diggle meet up with this absolutely awesome guy. His name is Anatoly, okay? I didn't print out a picture of him, and I'm really upset about it because Anatoly is one of my favorite characters, okay? He's literally one of the best characters in the entire show. Anatoly, he is Russian. He is associated with the Bratva. Okay, remember, Oliver is also associated with the Bratva. Anatoly and Oliver are friends because when Anatoly greets them, he's like, Oliver, my favorite American. Anatoly reveals that the gulag that Lila is trapped in, the only way to get in is if you're a prisoner. So the plan is for Diggle to get arrested and then sent to the gulag so that he can extract Lila. John reveals to Team Arrow that the reason why he needs to rescue Lila so badly is because they used to be married. They got divorced because of the whole Floyd Lawton thing. He absolutely cannot leave Russia without Lila. Diggle gets arrested and sent to the gulag. Anatoly helps Oliver and Felicity get their hands on a Russian police car because that's part of the plan. They need it for the plan. We get a flashback to the island, the freighter. We learn that Anatoly is actually one of the prisoners on the Amazo. Here he is. And then also we learn that Shadow and Slade, both of them are still alive. They're both still at the wreckage of the plane. This plane has really stood the test of time, okay? It's absolutely in shambles right now because it was bombed multiple times. But, like, they're still there. They're still hiding out in the wreckage. And Shadow is, like, mostly fine, but Slade is seriously injured, okay? Slade is burned. Slade is dying. Thea breaks up with Roy. Back in the gulag, Diggle gets himself into a fight because the goal is for Diggle to get thrown into solitary because they have an inside man in the prison who will release him from solitary and then he'll be able to go find Lila. So Diggle gets in a prison fight. He gets sent to solitary confinement. Who else is in solitary confinement? Dead hot, dead shot, Floyd Lawton. He is here. And he is still hot. Back at the hotel where Oliver and Felicity and Isabel are, Oliver and Isabel are having a little chat, and they're getting really flirty really fast. Diggle gets himself saved by the inside man, and then Oliver and Isabel take their business to the bedroom, if you know what I mean. Now is a good time to point out that on the board, I have added little hearts on the strings between characters who have confirmed slept together. We will be adding more as the show goes on, okay, because it only gets crazier. Back in the gulag, dead hot, dead shot Floyd Lawton also escapes solitary confinement. He kills the guard, and he's like, yo, Dig, you're gonna help me get the fuck out of this gulag, because I know where Lila is, and if you help me get out of here, I will lead you to Lila. And Diggle obviously does not like this team up, okay? Diggle and Lawton are not exactly best bros, okay, because Lawton killed his brother. Remember? Felicity knocks on Oliver's hotel door because it's time to get Diggle, okay? And as Felicity goes in, Isabel comes out. and Isabel sees Felicity and she says, I think she can take the night off. Felicity is not exactly jazzed that Oliver and Isabel are in a little relationship now. Anatoly, Oliver, and Felicity head in that cop car that they stole earlier, and they get into the gulag to bust out Diggle. In a flashback on the island, or on the boat, I guess, Sarah frees Oliver, and she brings him to Anthony Ivo's little room, and she's like, here's a radio, okay? Radio to your friends. And Oliver radios, and he's like, Shadow, Slade. Shadow answers, and she's like, Oliver, yeah, we're both okay. We're at the wreckage. Sarah rips the microphone out of the wall, and then Ivo shows up, and this was all a part of Ivo's plan to see if Slade and Shadow were still alive. So Sarah tricked Oliver. In the gulag, Deadshot leads Diggle to Lila. They save Lila together, they get her out of the prison, they haul ass out of this gulag, okay? It's a huge, intense fight scene, and once they're far enough away, Diggle's like, Anatoly, stop the car, okay? We stop the car, Diggle says, Deadshot, get the hell out of here, okay? So he kicks Deadshot out, and he's like about to kill him, and then Diggle just decides that he's not going to kill Deadshot, you know, because Diggle's such a good guy. In season 1, Diggle believed that Floyd Lawton missed his intended target and Andy was killed by mistake. Floyd reveals Andy was not killed by mistake because he never misses, okay? Deadshot did not get his name for no fucking reason, okay? So Andy was the target all along. And Floyd reveals he was hired by some group called Hive, 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 to kill Andy. Everyone arrives back home in Starling City. Oliver wants to talk to Isabel about what happened between them, but she's like, there's absolutely nothing to talk about. Thea goes to prison to see Moira, and she reveals the whole thing about her breaking up with Roy, and then Moira's like, what? I told Jean not to tell you to break up with Roy. So Moira tells Thea to go back and start dating Roy again. So Thea and Roy aren't broken up, Moira approves. So Diggle and Lila are rekindling their relationship, and Diggle also whips out his phone and does a Bing search for Hive. A Bing search? Felicity goes up to Oliver and she's like, hey, listen, I can't control you, you're a big boy, alright, but you deserve so much better than Isabel Roshov. Final scene, it's a flashback, we're on the boat, Ivo has a gun and he's about to kill Oliver, and Sarah is like, no, okay, he can still be useful, don't you dare shoot him, okay? And she convinces Ivo not to kill Oliver, so Oliver gets to live another day. How unfortunate. In episode 6, Oliver made 5 dramatic speeches, 1 smart remark, 26 dramatic pauses, and I laughed at him 3 times. The most dramatic speeches goes to Diggle. Diggle was also the character with the most smart remarks. He had 3. He was also tied with Isabel and Roy. Oh, didn't mention this. Also, in this episode, we got a cameo by Eliza Taylor, aka Clark Griffin from The 100. Bitch was here, okay? I'm obsessed with The 100. It's my favorite show. Love it, love them, love their work. Hate the last season, but we don't talk about her. Anyway, Clark Griffin was here. She was a news reporter. She was protesting the particle accelerator. Episode 7, State versus Queen. We start with a quick little reminder about Moira Queen and her crimes against humanity. We immediately segue into the aftermath of Iron Heights Prison. Remember I mentioned Iron Heights Prison was destroyed in the earthquake? Well, now we get to see the prisoners actually escape. Among the escapees was the Count. Y'all remember the Count? He was crazy once. He's still crazy, but he's like less crazy now. He can function again, so that's kind of bad. Title screen. Before the trial starts, Adam and Laurel have a little meeting, okay? And Adam reveals that he has a trump card, and it's going to win them the case so easily, okay? Laurel's like, okay, well, what is it? And he says, it's a secret. On the island, Ivo isn't able to find Slade and Shadow in the plane wreckage, okay? They go looking for them, but they're not there. And so Ivo then forces Oliver to take him to the graves. Meanwhile, we see Slade and Shadow, they're hiding somewhere. They are preparing to find Oliver and save him. At the start of the trial, Diggle is feeling really sick. He's so sick, he's like shaking, he's queasy, he can't walk, so Oliver tells him to just go home and get some rest. At the start of the trial, you know how trials go, there's opening statements, so Jean is giving her opening statement, and she says this banger. She says, "What would you do if it were your children in the crosshairs of a madman's rage?" And you know, it's giving, what would you do? If Floyd Lawton was standing right there. That's the energy it has. Diggle does not go back home. He goes back to Queen Consolidated and he runs into Felicity, and then Diggle passes out and Felicity takes him to the Arrow Cave. Turns out, whatever took down Diggle, okay, whatever this thing is that made Diggle so sick, it's the work of the Count, okay? The Count is working with some doctor, the Count kills this doctor, and then monologues about how freaking awesome it's gonna be when he takes over the city with his new vertigo. Back at the Arrow Cave, Oliver leaves the trial, comes to the Arrow Cave, and he tells Felicity to give Diggle the vertigo cure, because you know, it worked on the old vertigo, so maybe it'll work on the new vertigo. Then Oliver goes back to the courthouse. At court, Thea, she's being cross-examined by Adam, and she's not doing a very great job at defending her mother, okay? Adam's like, so why didn't you go see your mother in prison? Like, you waited months before you went to see her. What's that about? And Thea's like, well, I was mad at her. Adam's in the middle of questioning her when all of a sudden he passes out too. Same thing as Diggle. Adam just passes out on the courtroom floor. We're back on the island. Oliver has reluctantly led Ivo, Sarah, and some of Ivo's men to the cave. They're looking around the cave. Ivo's pissed because he can't find the arrowhead. He's like, where is it? Where's the arrowhead? Oh, it's got the coordinates on it. Where's the arrowhead? He's freaking out. Outside the cave, the evil dudes get ambushed by Slade and Shadow, who are here to save Oliver. At court, they wheel Adam Donner away on a stretcher, put him in the back of an ambulance, but who's driving the ambulance? The Count. Moira, Jean, and Oliver are having a little discussion while the court's in recess, and they're like, Thea, your testimony, it sucked ass. Jean's like, Moira, I know you don't want to testify, but you're gonna have to testify because it's looking pretty bleak for you right now. And Moira is like, no, I cannot testify because if I testify, it will destroy our family. The Count kidnapped ADA Donner. He brought him to some undisclosed location and he's filming him on a broadcast. The Count explains to everyone that all the people who are feeling sick are going through the effects of vertigo withdrawal. The only way to ease the pain is to take vertigo. That's a crazy plan. So on this broadcast, he makes Adam Donner ask him for vertigo. So this fucking dude is like, I want vertigo, please give me the vertigo. And then he takes vertigo live on television. Since ADA Adam is now down for the Count, Laurel has to has to lead this case. Laurel has to be the big guns, okay? So she goes through all of Adam's files and she finds the trump card and she literally gasps when she sees it and she's like, oh no. So Thea Queen not having the best day ever. So Roy goes to see her and he brings some boxing gloves and he says, Thea, hit me. And then and then she just keeps punching him until she breaks down in tears and then they cry and hug together. Felicity managed to track down the Count, so Oliver suits up and goes to find him. Laurel, having just figured out this trump card, goes to talk to Moira and she says, Moira, you cannot testify, okay? And she shows Moira this document, okay, which is, it's absolutely crazy that there's a document of this, but hang tight. She shows Moira this document, and she's like, Moira, if you testify, I will have to use that, okay? And it could undermine your entire case, so do not testify, I am begging you. The Hood shows up, and he saves ADA Donner, but the Count gets away. Okay. Buckle up. So we get a scene. It's like a mix of two scenes. It's half like Moira talking to Thea and Oliver before court, and then the other half is like during court. So she's saying this story to Oliver and Thea first, and then she's also saying it in court. Moira confesses to Oliver and Thea, and literally everyone in Starling City, that many years ago, he had an affair with Malcolm Merlin. Moira Queen was having an affair with Malcolm Merlin, and I mean, can you blame her? Can you blame her? So, Thea is very upset about this, because if you recall in season 1, Thea thought that Moira was cheating on Walter with Malcolm, and she confronted Moira about it, and Moira was like, no, there's nothing going on, and Moira's like, listen, Thea, last year, we were not having an affair, okay? The affair happened many, many years ago. Last year, we were just friends. In court, Laurel's like, so Moira, why didn't Malcolm kill Walter like he killed Robert? And Moira admits it's because she asked Malcolm to spare Walter's life. And then Laurel's like, okay, so if Malcolm listened to you, then you were never in any danger. The only one who posed a threat to the Queen family was Moira Queen. After all this, Oliver goes to see Laurel, and Laurel is distressed and distraught. She's like, I cannot believe that I had to do that. The Queens are my friends, and I just had to, like, destroy their whole family. That's not cool. And Oliver comes up to Laurel, and he's like, hey, I'm sorry you had to do that. Like, are you okay? And remember, Laurel does not like when people ask her if she's okay, so she gets very angry, and she's like, I don't understand why you're trying to be nice to me right now. And then she just leaves. On the island, a fight breaks out between pretty much everybody, and Oliver, Slade, and Shadow get away, and Sarah also goes with them. So now we've got Oliver, Slade, Shadow, and Sarah all together. So we're in the Arrow Cave, and Felicity, John, and Oliver are trying to figure out where all these people got injected with vertigo, because there has to be a common place between Diggle and Adam Donner and all these other people in Starling City. Where did they all go? And they figure out that they all got injected during their flu vaccines. There was a vaccine truck, and everybody who got the flu vaccine there is now suffering vertigo withdrawals. So Felicity heads out to this truck to see if she can find anything suspicious. She goes by herself, and she gets immediately captured by the Count. Oliver and Thea are at the courtroom. Oliver gets a call from Felicity. It's not Felicity, it's the Count. So Oliver leaves, suits up as the Hood, and goes to rescue Felicity. Oliver rolls up to Queen Consolidated dressed in the Hood, except one thing's wrong. The hood is down, okay? He's wearing the Arrow costume, but the hood is off. So if there had been literally anybody else at Queen Consolidated, he would have been seen. Also, are there not security cameras at Queen Consolidated? Make it make absolute sense, because Felicity is kidnapped. Like, she can't wipe the footage from the security cameras until after she gets unkidnapped. Oliver walking around Queen Consolidated with his hood off? Why? Why are you doing that? Anyway, so Oliver gets to Queen Consolidated, and the Count has Felicity, and the Count's about to kill Felicity, and so Oliver shoots the Count 3 times in the chest, and then he falls backwards out the window, shatters the window, about 20 stories down on top of a car. The Count is totally dead. We're back in court. The jury has come to a verdict, okay? Moira Queen, in the case of the undertaking, you are not guilty. What? Everyone is shocked by this verdict, including the jury. At the Arrow Cave, Oliver and Felicity discuss the whole Count situation, and she's apologizing because she got herself into danger, and then Oliver had to kill somebody for her, and Oliver is supposed to be not killing people now, so she feels bad. And he's like, listen, Felicity, don't feel bad, okay? I would kill 1,000,000 men for you. He doesn't actually say that, but they have, like, a really, really, like, tense romantic vibes scene, but they don't kiss. What's up with that? On the island, Sarah reveals that the arrowhead that Anthony Ivo and friends are looking for has the coordinates to a Japanese submarine, and on the Japanese submarine is the Marikuru. And then Oliver's like, can the Marikuru save Slade? Because Slade is seriously injured. Slade is going to die. And so Oliver is like, if the Marikuru can save Slade, then we need to get it. Just in case you forgot Sebastian Blood was evil, we see a scene where he suits back up in his skull mask, and he's injecting people with the weird green stuff. It might be vertigo, it might not be vertigo, we don't know. There's another dude who wakes up, and Sebastian's like, Brother Cyrus, you survived. If you had to buckle up before, you're going to have to double buckle up for this, okay? I don't think there's any way I can properly prepare you for what's about to happen. Okay, so, Moira Queen, not guilty. She gets into a car, and she asks the driver to take her back to the Queen Mansion, okay? The driver takes a little bit of a detour. Driver goes to a parking lot, empty-ass parking lot. He steps out of the car. He lets Moira out of the car. The driver turns around and says, okay, I delivered her, just like you asked. The driver gets shot in the chest twice by arrows. We hear from off camera, hello, Moira. It's Malcolm Merlyn. What? Malcolm Merlyn is alive. He's not here for no reason, okay? He's here to drop some plot bombs on us. I gasped, and so did Moira. She was not expecting this. It's like Chekhov's gun. As soon as you mention Malcolm Merlyn, he comes back. He explains that the reason Moira was found not guilty is because he bribed the jury. He threatened and bribed the jury, and that's why Moira got acquitted. The whole scene is crazy. He's giving this crazy monologue. It's peak television, let me tell you. But he says this, okay? The ease with which you lied about us for years made me wonder if you had been lying to me. It was the matter of a simple surreptitious genetics test to confirm my suspicion. Imagine my joy in finding out that Thea Queen is my daughter. Thea is what now? First of all, not dead. Second of all, oh boy. This is absolutely crazy. Okay, so that's the end of the episode. So we get some Felicity lore this episode. She says she never gets her flu shot because she's scared of needles. In this episode, Oliver made 8 dramatic speeches, 0 smart remarks, 24 pauses. I laughed at him once, and he killed 1 person. The person with the most dramatic pauses was the Count, and the Count also had the most smart remarks. He had 4. And I also laughed at Moira Queen the most. So yeah, Malcolm Merlyn is alive, and he's also Thea's father. Episode 8, The Scientist. We open on a Queen Consolidated storage facility. Some dude busts in, kills some dudes, and steals something. Title screen. Oliver takes Moira back to Queen Consolidated, and he wants to reinstate her as the CEO instead of him. Isabel is not having this. The next scene, it's a mix of 2 different things going on. We have a scene of Lance, Officer Lance, telling Oliver, Felicity, and John what just happened in the break-in. And it's interspersed with scenes of some random dude. He's running so late for something, and he's going so slow. This guy is like the slowest man alive. That's what people probably call him. Bam. There he is. This dude eventually makes it to the crime scene where Lance, Oliver, Felicity, and John are, and he introduces himself as Barry Allen. He's a CSI dude from Central City, and he's here to investigate this case because a similar case happened in Central City. And this guy just seems so slow and boring. Like, I honestly don't think that a dude named Barry Allen would be cool enough to, like, say, have his own show. This totally unimportant Barry Allen guy is like, the dude came in here and he stole a centrifuge, okay? He just ripped it out of the ground with his bare hands. This guy is, like, super strong. And then Felicity and this Barry Allen guy start geeking out about nerd shit. On the island, Shadow is like, hey, Oliver, how do you know Sarah? Like, what's the connection there? And he reveals the whole cheating on the sisters with the boat, cheating on the boat with the sisters. Sister boat situation. Felicity invites Barry to come to Queen Consolidated and set up his forensics equipment there. Oliver's not happy about this. He does not like that Felicity is letting Barry Allen into his personal space bubble. And Oliver seems to have some kind of, like, idea about why this man is super strong, but he is not sharing with the class. Oliver goes to see Moira, and he suggests that they throw a party at the Queen Mansion to celebrate her return to the company. Barry and Felicity are geeking out over some dirt samples that the killer left behind, and they discover that there's trace amounts of sugar in the dirt. Barry in this scene also reveals some of his dramatic backstory to Felicity. We get the watered down version where he says that his mother was killed and they never caught the guy who did it. And that's really sad, and I don't know why they're giving such an unimportant side character a tragic backstory. Like, can we stay focused here, CW? Roy and Thea go to meet up with Sin, and Sin explains that one of her friends went missing. He's been gone for weeks, and she has no idea where he is. He hasn't called, he hasn't texted. And Thea and Roy agree to help play detective with Sin. We're at the Queen Mansion. Moira is minding her absolute own business. She is just vibing alone in the Queen Mansion when all of the sudden, absolute jump scare moment, Malcolm Merlyn walks in from the shadows and he's like, Moira, you need to tell Thea about me. She deserves to know and you better tell her, okay? Okay. Moira is like, I can't tell her that, okay? She's already pissed that we had an affair. Imagine how pissed Thea would be if she found out that her fucking father was Malcolm Merlyn. Could you imagine? Imagine what that would do to her. Moira is like, no, I'm not telling Thea about you. Go back to whatever hole you crawled out of. Malcolm also says some weird shit. He mentions Nanda Parbat. And then he leaves. Barry and Felicity tell Oliver and Diggle about the trace amounts of sucrose that the killer dragged in. They find out that there was a sugar truck that had been recently robbed. They believe that the thief also stole this candy truck, and maybe the centrifuge is in the candy truck. Oliver also asked Diggle to look into Barry because Oliver thinks that Barry is sus. Okay, there's something off about this guy. Suspicious. Oliver hoods up. He goes to fight the big bad guy who stole the centrifuge. This guy is like a human punching bag, okay? Oliver is hitting and hitting. He's not even affected. He's just standing there like. So Oliver obviously cannot win against this guy. At the Arrow Cave, Oliver finally confesses to Felicity and Diggle that while he was on the island, he met some dude called Dr. Ivo who was looking for this magical miracle medicine that would create superhumans. And Oliver believes that the thief who stole the centrifuge is on this miracle drug. The killer thief guy, they have some of his blood, so Felicity goes to take that blood sample to Barry because he can run some tests and they can find out what drug is in this man's system. And then once Felicity leaves, Diggle tells Oliver that Barry Allen is not who he says he is. On the island, Oliver, Sarah, Slade, and Shadow discover the remains of a submarine, and it's like in the middle of the island. They explain that it like got pulled under. There's like a river that goes under the island, and then the submarine got like pulled into the center of the island. It's weird. Felicity and Barry are geeking out, running some blood tests together, and she invites him to come as her date to the Moira Queen welcome back party. Thea, Sin, and Roy have their detective hats on, and they go to Sin's friend's house. It's completely trashed. The man has clearly not been there in a while. They find a flyer for the Sebastian blood drive. And Sin is like, oh my god, the date of the blood drive is the same day that he went missing. And also we see that the three of them are being watched by one of Sebastian Blood's little brother. Right in front of Felicity and her salad, Oliver confronts Barry Allen and he's like, I know that you're not actually CSI. I know that you're lying to us and you shouldn't even be here. Okay, and then Barry Allen has to admit his whole tragic backstory. Barry explains that he's not CSI, he's just an assistant CSI. His boss does not know that he is in Starling City, so that's not great. This is gonna sound absolutely batshit crazy, so brace yourself. Barry Allen's mother was murdered.
Barry was a little boy, okay? His mommy got murdered in a tornado. There was a tornado in their house, and there was a man in the tornado, and then his mom was dead, and the man in the tornado killed his mom, but the cops blamed his dad, but it was not his dad who killed his mom, it was the tornado man. But Barry Allen, nobody believed him when he said that, because it's obviously bonkers, right? And so his dad is now in prison for life, because the tornado man killed his mom.
This show is nuts. And so Barry's like, the reason I'm here investigating this case is because if I can make sense of one crazy case, maybe I'll be able to make sense of what happened to my mom. Moira's party ends up being a total bust. There's only like 10 people who show up because nobody likes her. Okay, she might have been found not guilty for murder, but nobody likes her still. While they're at the party, Roy is with Thea. He gets a call from Sin. He leaves, but Thea stays behind. Oliver goes up to Felicity and he apologizes for freaking out about Barry. And he says that he actually invited Barry to the party. So Barry shows back up and he and Felicity have a little dance together. Oliver's also like, they're totally gonna card Barry at the bar. How old is this guy? Then Oliver goes to talk to Isabel and their conversation is interrupted by Moira. And Moira and Isabel have a very tense dynamic, okay? There's clearly some history there. We're not quite sure what it is, but they do not like each other. On the island, the gang manages to get onto the submarine. They find the Maracuru, and Sarah explains that they can't just straight up inject it into Slade because he will 100% die if they do that, okay? They need to have, like, a sedative as well. But they're looking around this submarine, and there's no sedative, okay? So they have to, like, choose whether or not to give it to Slade without the sedative. And then all of a sudden, Ivo's men show up at the submarine, so now we're on a bit of a time crunch. After the party is over, Oliver goes up to Moira and he's like, yo mom, I am so sorry that this party was a total bust. I'm sorry that no one showed up for you. And she's like, it's okay. I don't care about what the world thinks of me. I only care about what you and Thea think of me. Oliver leaves and Moira goes to talk to Thea, and there's a moment where Moira considers telling Thea about Malcolm, but she backs out. She chickens out at the last second, and Thea still does not know that her real father is Malcolm Merlyn. Barry has to leave to go back to Central City because his boss is freaking out. Oliver suits up because he wants to go take down the thief. They know where he is now, I think. Oliver suits up. He's ready to go. He sees Roy's little signal, so he goes to talk to Roy first. On the island, Slade gives informed consent and agrees to take the Maracuru without a sedative. So they inject Slade with the Maracuru. And he immediately starts bleeding from his eyeballs. So it's really not looking good for Slade. Like, he's giving dead vibes right now. Roy meets up with the vigilante. He shows the vigilante a picture of Sin's friend. Her friend is, like, bleeding from his eyeballs. So that looks pretty familiar, and Oliver sees it. When Oliver sees the picture, he's like, Roy, you stay away from this, okay? Stay as far away from this as you possibly can. Do not get involved with any of that. Roy does not want to stay away from it, okay? So Oliver's response is to shoot Roy in the leg with an arrow. It is time for another scene between my two favorite characters, Malcolm and Moira. I love them. I love the dynamic they have. They have so much chemistry. It's absolutely crazy. Like, every time I see them, I'm like, more of this, please. Malcolm shows back up. He kills 2 security guards off screen, walks in from the shadows, and he says, have you prepared Thea? Wild thing to say. Moira walks up to him. He's also dressed in his Archer costume, by the way. Didn't mention that. He is dressed in the Dark Archer outfit. She walks up to him, absolutely unafraid. Okay, she's like, get out of my house. They're going back and forth in this little threatening each other match when Moira finally reveals that she told Ra's al Ghul that Malcolm Merlyn was still alive. And Malcolm immediately, like, tenses up. He freaks out. He's like, Ra's al Ghul, what, How do you know about Ra's al Ghul? And Moira's like, I had no idea about him until you mentioned Nanda Parbat in our last little chat. And so Ra's al Ghul, he knows you're alive, and he really wants to catch up with you. So if you hang around here and keep threatening me and Thea, I will tell Ra's al Ghul where you are, and then he will come kill you. He says, this isn't over, and then he leaves. The vigilante goes to fight the Maracuru guy, okay? Because at this point, we know that the guy was injected with Maracuru. The thief who stole the centrifuge in the candy truck, he was injected with Maracuru. So Oliver goes to fight the Maracuru guy. He gets his ass absolutely kicked, okay? Oliver is not winning this fight. He gets thrown on the ground. They're in a warehouse filled with drugs, like medical drugs. So he gets pushed into, like, a wall of needles, and then he gets stabbed with 2 of these needles, like, in the leg. Oliver's not doing great. He's definitely going to die. On the island, Slade, he dies, okay? Slade does not survive the Maracuru, so rest in peace, Slade. Rip Slade. That really sucks. Ivo's men also come into the submarine at this point, and they have Oliver, Sarah, Shadow, and Slade surrounded. Felicity and Diggle, they're in this warehouse with Oliver. They cannot figure out what has just been injected into him, okay? So they kidnap Barry Allen. They kidnap Barry Allen, bring him to the Arrow Cave, and they ask Barry to save Oliver. Alright. At the end of this episode, Oliver made 10 dramatic speeches, 2 smart remarks, 26 dramatic pauses, and I laughed at him 12 times. This was a really great episode for Oliver. Person with the most dramatic pauses was actually Barry Allen. Do you want to guess how many pauses he had? Just take a guess. 61. 61 dramatic pauses. This absolute side character just shows up and gives 61 dramatic pauses. Episode 9, 3 Ghosts. So, we're in the Arrow Cave. Oliver dying on the table. Barry's like, I think I can save him. Do y'all have any rat poison up in here? So he uses rat poison and saves Oliver with that. While Oliver is in his little dying state, he hallucinates Shadow, the first of the 3 ghosts. And she's like, stay with me. Title screen. When Oliver wakes up and sees Barry Allen in the Arrow Cave, he freaks out and then starts choking the guy. And Felicity and Diggle are like, yo, calm down. We invited him in, and Oliver is pissed because only he can invite people into the Arrow Cave. And Felicity's like, okay, it was that or you die, so like, how mad really are we? And Barry is like watching them fight, and he's like, guys, I'm not gonna tell anyone. And nobody is listening to him. Oliver leaves and heads back to the Queen Mansion. Moira is there, and she's like, oh my god, Oliver, Thea will not come out of her room. She will not speak to me. And Oliver's like, let me go check on her. So in Thea's room, we find Thea, Sin, and Roy. Remember, Roy got shot by the vigilante, so he's laying in Thea's bed, bleeding everywhere with an arrow in his leg. And Oliver has to pretend to be shocked. Oliver calls Diggle, and Diggle is gonna treat Roy's wound, and then Oliver promises not to tell Moira that Roy's there. He also is like, guys, maybe you should stay away from this vigilante business, and then he leaves, and then Theasin and Roy are like, we're not gonna stay away from this. Oliver is still hallucinating Shadow. He's walking around wide awake, and Shadow says, put down your bow, or everyone you love will die. Something crazy is about to happen, okay? On the island, Ivo comes out of the submarine, and he's like, I got the Maracuru now, and I also have the gun, and he lines Sarah and Shadow up. He makes them get down in front of him on their knees, and he's like, Oliver, choose. Are we killing Sarah or Shadow? What? So back in Sebastian Blood's evil lair, he announces to some mysterious masked person that in just 2 days, they will have enough Maracuru to start making an army. Now, what do you need that for? Back in the Arrow Cave, Oliver goes up to Barry and he's like, hey, little nerd, are there any side effects of that rat poison that you gave me? And Barry's like, yes, actually, hallucinations. And Oliver's like, great, I'm having those, so this is your fault. So Barry is like gallivanting around the Arrow Cave, and he's just touching everything, like looking at all the arrows, and he's looking at the costume, and he's looking at the computers, and he's like, hey, Oliver, you know what would be cool? If you wore a mask. Because, like, the hood, it's great and all, but like one day someone's gonna like look up it, maybe you should invest in a mask. And Oliver's like, no. Barry also managed to figure out that the guy who beat him to near death last episode's name is Cyrus Gold. So Cyrus Gold, part of the Maracuru army under Sebastian Blood, alright? Oliver and Diggle head out to find Cyrus Gold. Sin and Thea roll up to Laurel's place of work, and they're like, hey Laurel, we need your help. Okay, there's something fishy going on surrounding the Sebastian Blood blood drive. Can you ask Sebastian Blood for some more info on this blood drive? Also, Laurel just received a big-ass bouquet of flowers from none other than Sebastian Blood. So she was about to go on a date with him anyway, so maybe she could bring that up in casual conversation, you never know. So she agrees to help Sin and Thea. Diggle and Oliver find Cyrus Gold's little hideout. They try to attack him, but Cyrus gets away, and Team Arrow is also not hurt. Felicity calls Lance, and then Lance has a rooftop meeting with the vigilante, and the vigilante tells him about Cyrus Gold and the Maracuru and all that stuff. Oliver has a hallucination of Slade Wilson, and he turns and runs. He just books it, and Lance is like, on the island, he's got the gun pointed at Sarah, and Oliver's like, no, and he runs in between Sarah and the gun, and so Ivo's like, you made your choice then, and he points the gun at Shadow, and he shoots Shadow right in the head, and she's dead now. Rip Shadow. Sucks for you. Laurel goes to talk to Thea, and she's like, hey, I looked into that blood drive like you asked me to. There's absolutely nothing shady going on there. All of the people who gave blood, though, they were subjected to a psych evaluation, but we don't have access to those files. They're locked away, and I can't get those for you. So this is where the trail ends. Back in the Arrow Cave, Felicity and Barry are hanging out. They're having a cute little moment. They're bonding over how cool Oliver is. And then there's also a news report about the fucking Star Labs particle accelerator. It's about to blow. It's Christmas time, okay? And at the beginning of the season, we learned that the particle accelerator was gonna go off around Christmas, and it's Christmas time now. So the thing's about to turn on, or I don't know. I literally do not understand what the particle accelerator is, and I don't care, because, like, how irrelevant? It's probably not important, like, let's be so for real. Back at the police station, Lance assembles a little task force, including Officer Daly. Officer Daly works for Sebastian Blood. He's one of the Marikuru brothers, okay? So Daly tells Sebastian and all the other brothers what's about to happen, because the cops are about to go try and arrest Cyrus Gold. They're gonna try and get the jump on him. Back in the Arrow Cave, Oliver is alone. He throws a tennis ball up in the air and he tries to shoot it, but he hallucinates Slade catching his arrow. The police go to attack Cyrus Gold. Cyrus ends up killing 3 cops and injuring Lance pretty seriously. Lance does manage to steal some keys off of Cyrus Gold. In the Arrow Cave, Oliver, still hallucinating Slade, they fight. They get into this huge fight, okay? But Slade's a hallucination. So Oliver's just fighting the air. He is literally destroying the Arrow Cave. He's just like throwing stuff. He's banging into walls. He's not having a good time, okay? Why is he alone in there? Like, they know he's hallucinating. Why would you leave him alone? Whatever. Laurel's hanging out on that little date with Sebastian Blood. They're at the pier. It's real cute. She's about to ask him, like, some kind of incriminating question when her phone rings, and it's a call from the hospital, and her dad's in the hospital. So Laurel immediately leaves to go to the hospital. Back in the Arrow Cave, Barry's like, yo, Oliver, I did your blood test. Like, the rat poison's out of your system. These hallucinations you're having, it's not the result of the rat poison. You're just crazy. At the hospital, Laurel goes to see Officer Lance, and then the Hood also shows up to see Lance, and Lance gives the Hood the keys that he stole off of Cyrus Gold. Back in the Arrow Cave, Diggle's like, Oliver, these hallucinations, these ghosts that you're seeing, they're probably trying to tell you something, okay? So you need to figure out what they're trying to tell you, and you need to solve this issue, because this is a mental game you're playing with yourself, Oliver. Felicity is able to figure out what door the key unlocks, so Oliver and Diggle suit up and head there. Roy breaks into the doctor's office where all the psych evals were stored. Remember the blood drive? All of the participants took a psych eval. Roy is breaking into the doctor's office to steal the psych eval on Sin's friend. They find the file, and on it, it says Marikuru. Roy is not alone in this place with these files. He's not alone, so somebody actually knocks him out and kidnaps him. They bring Roy to Sebastian Blood, who injects him with the Marikuru. Oliver breaks into Cyrus Gold's little hideout, and he gets his ass kicked yet again, okay? Oliver cannot beat this guy. While Oliver is knocked down, he's about to die. He's on death's door yet again, knocking, knock, knock, okay? He sees the third and final ghost, okay? Remember episode called 3 Ghosts? We had Shadow, Slade, and now the third one, Tommy Merlin. Tommy Merlin appears to Oliver in a hallucination, and he's like, Oliver, you have to fight. You have to stand up, get back up, fight these bitches, okay? And Oliver takes Tommy's sage advice, and he stands up. With the power of Tommy vested in Yi, he manages to kill Cyrus Gold and save Roy. Thea and Sin go to see Roy at the mansion, and Roy does not tell them what happened. Drama alert. Guess who's not dead? That's right. Slade Wilson. He didn't die, actually. He's also not British. I don't know what I'm doing. Also, Slade, not dead. He is actually the mastermind behind Sebastian Blood's whole organization. The reason Sebastian Blood has Marikuru is because this dude was able to use his own blood to reverse engineer the Marikuru into a serum, and now Slade Wilson is using Sebastian Blood to make a Marikuru army so that he can go after the vigilante, okay? Because he wants to make the vigilante pay, all right? I wonder whatever for. Slade's master plan is he's going to take away everything the vigilante loves and then drive an arrow through his eye. Slade's got an eye patch now, and that makes him like 100 times hotter. I don't make the rules. Back on the island, we see Slade, who, again, not dead. He comes out of the submarine, and he finds Shadow's corpse rotting on the ground while Oliver and Sarah are like crying next to it. And Oliver is about to tell Slade everything. He's about to tell Slade the whole choose thing. But Sarah stops him, and she's like, Ivo just shot her. Like, Ivo's just crazy. Ivo just shot her. Okay, nothing else. That's all. Slade vows that he's going to kill Shadow's killer. Barry goes back to Central City. Finally, get him the fuck out of here. I am so sick of this pointless, meaningless, dumbass side character ass Barry Allen, slowest man alive bitch. He leaves Oliver a little gift before he goes. Barry is in Central City. He's in his lab. He calls Felicity, asks her on a date. She says she'll consider it. As soon as he hangs up the phone with Felicity, the particle accelerator starts accelerating those particles, okay? And what this looks like is a big wave of like red energy that just like comes out in a circle from starting at the particle accelerator, and it just across all of Central City, and it's absolutely crazy. And Barry ends up getting electrocuted, and he falls on the floor, and he looks pretty dead to me, so rip Barry Allen. This episode ends with Oliver in the Arrow Cave. He opens Barry's little gift box, and what is it? It's a mask. Yeah. Oliver Queen, upgraded. He has a mask now. The stats for this episode. In episode 9, Oliver made 12 dramatic speeches, 2 smart remarks, 49 dramatic pauses. I laughed at him 6 times, and he killed 2 people. Barry, in case you were wondering, made 9 dramatic speeches, 2 smart remarks, and 28 dramatic pauses, and unfortunately, I did laugh at him 4 times. Like, why does he have to be funny? Tommy Merlin was only here for, like, 30 seconds, but he managed to do 6 dramatic pauses. A true king and a true icon, and, like, never forget Tommy Merlin. Episode 10, Blast Radius. Vigilante running around town. He's been chasing after drug dealers, asking if any of them have any idea who the guy in the skull mask is. He has absolutely no leads, okay? Title's great. In the Arrow Cave, we learn that Felicity Smoke is in Central City with Barry Allen, who is unfortunately not dead, just comatose. So, Diggle tells Oliver that he needs to slow down with the hunt for this skull mask man guy because it's starting to like wear on him. But Oliver's like, no, Diggle, we cannot slow down. Okay, we gotta get him now. On the island, Oliver, Sarah, and Slade bury Shadow, and Oliver is again considering telling Slade that Ivo gave him the choice to choose either Sarah or Shadow. But Sarah stops Oliver, and she's like, listen, Oliver, Slade's on the Marakuru now. He's not Slade anymore. Like, he's messed up, and if you tell him that you're the one who killed Shadow, he's gonna freaking kill you. Okay, so don't do that. Laurel goes to Adam Donner. She's like, yo, Adam, I don't like Sebastian Blood. He is suspicious with a capital sus. She wants Adam to help her find out the truth about Sebastian Blood. And like, Laurel has absolutely no concrete reason to distrust Sebastian. She just kind of does. And she's absolutely right to distrust him. I mean, he's a freak. But to everyone else, Sebastian Blood is this really stand-up guy. He's like, he's gonna be the mayor. He's like such a great guy. And Laurel is like not buying it. But Adam refuses to help her look into Sebastian Blood. At a Sebastian Blood campaign fundraiser event, and Oliver gets up on stage and he gives a glowing speech, a glowing endorsement for Sebastian and his campaign. Then he goes to talk to Thea. He's like, hey Thea, how's Roy doing? Okay, because Oliver knows that Roy was injected with Marakuru, and Thea's like, nope, Roy seems fine to me, acting totally normal. Oliver sees Laurel, who's talking to Sebastian, and Oliver goes to talk to Laurel, and then they're aside, and Laurel's like, I don't want to date Sebastian because I feel like I don't know the real Sebastian. All of a sudden, there's some new psycho in town, because remember, this is still Arrow. There are still, psychopaths popping up every week to do destruction and havoc in the city. So this week we have a bomber guy. He's blowing up buildings for some reason. So a building blows up. Oliver suits up as the Hood to go and try and save some people from this building. On the island, Slade is messed up, okay? The Mirakuru is doing something to his head. He is acting a fool, a freak. He's acting scary, okay? He starts yelling at Sarah because he's like, Sarah, you're the reason that Shadow's dead, blah, 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 blah. And then he starts screaming at Sarah, and then Oliver's like, Slade, cut it out, like, what's your deal? And then Slade's like, you were supposed to protect her. And then he goes and starts freaking out at Oliver, and he, like, grabs Oliver with one hand and puts him in a chokehold and, like, holds him up like this. Slade went from being seriously injured to super strong. Okay, this guy is scary. Felicity comes back to Starling City after she heard about the bombings. Oliver talks to Team Arrow, and he says that he thinks that the bomber is not associated with the Skull Mask guy. He's just another random side character that they added that's not connected to anything. Love it when the show does that. But they still need to catch him anyway because he's still blowing things up. Laurel goes to see Sebastian again, and he reveals his dramatic backstory to her. His mother killed his abusive father, and then his mom ran away, leaving Sebastian abandoned. And he was in an orphanage. He was in and out of foster care his whole life. And she asked about Cyrus Gold, and he reveals that Cyrus Gold was one of his friends, from his time in the orphanages and whatever. And he's like, I don't understand why Cyrus became a criminal. I don't know. We lost touch. But, that sucks because we were good friends. Once Sebastian leaves, Laurel snoops through his office. Thea goes to talk to Roy, and Roy is like, Thea, there is something going on with me, all right? I am messed up. She's like, is it about the vigilante? And he's like, no, it's not about the Arrow, okay? They're calling him the Arrow now. Roy's like, Thea, this is not about the vigilante. This is not about the Arrow. This is something else entirely, and I really need you to be by my side right now because you are the only thing that is keeping me sane. They start making out. They're in the supply closet, and he pushes her against the shelf, and then a box of glass bottles falls from the top shelf, and a shard of glass scratches Roy, and it goes really deep, okay? And Thea's like, holy shit, let me go, get you some help. And she leaves, and then we just see Roy staring at his arm, and the wound immediately starts healing. So, the Arrow goes to meet Officer Lance on the top of a roof again, and he asks Officer Lance to give him all the information that they have about the bomber so that he can catch the bomber, and Lance does that, and he also asks if the Arrow can look into the police phone records because he thinks there's a rat in the police station, and he's right to assume that, but he needs the vigilante to help him look into that. During their little chat across town, another building blows up. So the Arrow runs over there. They end up getting in a car chase with the bomber, but the bomber gets away, and Oliver blames Felicity for the bomber getting away because she was the one who was supposed to be tracking him. Back in the Arrow Cave, Oliver and Felicity start fighting, okay? They're screaming at each other. Oliver's like, if you hadn't gone to Central City, then maybe you would still be focused, okay? Maybe your mind is still in Central City. And then Felicity's like, what the hell are you talking about? Okay, back on the island, Oliver in a chokehold, remember? Sarah grabs a giant tree branch and whacks Slade over the head with it, so he drops Oliver. Slade regains control of his mind. He realizes what just happened, and he's on the ground shaking back and forth oh my god, what have I done? So Laurel goes to talk to her dad, and she's like, can you look into this woman called Maya Rezic? And Lance is like, who the fuck is that? And Laurel's like, that's what I'm trying to figure out, all right? She is associated with Sebastian Blood because he keeps paying for all of her medical bills, but when I googled her, turns out this woman doesn't exist. There's no record of her anywhere. So I want you to find out who she is. And Lance agrees to do this because he also thinks Sebastian Blood is a good guy, and he wants to prove to Laurel that she's crazy. Oliver suits up as the Arrow, goes to Sebastian Blood's campaign office, and he's like, yo, Sebastian, you need to call off this rally. There's a bomber out, and you want to have a rally downtown and have hundreds of people there? That's dangerous and stupid. The Arrow tells Sebastian Blood to call off his rally. He says, no. We cannot be afraid, okay? We can't be afraid of some bomber guy. I'm gonna have my rally whether there's a bomber in the city or not, okay? What an absolute menace to society this man is. Felicity is able to find out the identity of the bomber guy. She figures out that he works at a gift shop, so Oliver, of course, suits up to go to the gift shop. Lance goes back to Laurel, and he's like, found your Maya Rezic. Turns out Maya is Sebastian Blood's aunt. She is in a mental facility, and Sebastian is just paying all of her medical bills because he's such a good guy. But she still doesn't buy it. The gift shop rigged, okay? It was a trap. The Arrow is trapped. He radios to Felicity. She helps him get out of the trap. He also tells everyone that there's bombs at the rally. Remember, the rally is going on. During the rally, okay, the bombs don't end up going off. They do end up saving the day, but there is one explosion that happens, and it knocks over a beam, and that beam is about to fall on top of everyone's favorite liar, Moira Queen, and Roy ends up actually running towards the falling beam, and he's able to, like, hoist it up and save Moira. And Thea is watching this, like... Also, Diggle gets shot, but he survives. Afterwards, Thea goes up to Roy, and she's like, yo, Roy, what was that? And he's like, oh, must have just been adrenaline, I guess. Like, I don't know. I don't know. And he doesn't want to talk about it. So in the Arrow Cave, Oliver and Felicity finally apologize to each other. Okay, they agree to stop screaming at each other and whatnot. And they make up, and it's a really cute scene, and it's actually like a really good scene. But it's like weird that they don't kiss. Like, when are these two bitches gonna kiss? They get so close, and then it's like, oops, psych, actually, nope, just friends. What? Back on the island, Ivo radios to Sarah and Oliver, and he's like, hey, Sarah, I'm gonna bomb the entire island unless you come back and give me the Maracuru, okay? Because Sarah, Oliver, and Slade, they have the Maracuru. So Oliver and Sarah are like, well, we obviously can't give Ivo the Maracuru. And then they're like, wait, but where is the Maracuru? Like, it's not where I left it. Turns out, Slade stole the Maracuru and ran away, so now Sarah and Oliver have to go find Slade. Laurel goes to go see this Maya Rezic woman at this mental hospital, okay? This lady is, she's speaking Spanish, she's, like, kind of talking to herself, and she's like, my name's Laurel Lance, okay? I'm friends with Sebastian. Can you tell me about Sebastian? And Maya... she freaks out. She's like, Sebastian, he's not who he says he is, okay? I'm not his aunt. I am his mother, okay? Sebastian put me here, and he tried to hide the truth because I didn't kill his father. He killed his father. She also tells Laurel not to trust a word Sebastian says. The final scene of this episode is Oliver as the Arrow. He shakes hands with Sebastian Blood, and they agree to team up and make the city a better place. At the end of episode 10, Oliver made 13 dramatic speeches, 8 smart remarks, 52 dramatic pauses, and I laughed at him 4 times. Sebastian Blood had 47 dramatic pauses. The funniest character this episode was Felicity. I laughed at her 7 times. Episode 11, Blindspot. Sebastian goes to the psych ward, where he belongs, to see his mother. Maya confesses that she told Laurel the truth about everything, and Sebastian is pissed and he kills her. Title screen. Oliver still looking for this man in the skull mask, but like I said in the last episode, nobody knows anything about him. On the island, Sarah is not slaying, okay? She is doing the absolute reverse of a slay. She is flopping, actually, because she is making excuses for Anthony Ivo. Sarah's like, we should find Slade and we should turn him over to Ivo. And Oliver's like, bitch, we are not turning over Slade. He's my friend. We're brothers. Oliver reminds Sarah that Ivo literally shot and killed Shadow. And Sarah says, he's just tired and he's frustrated. Sarah, come on. He didn't mean to kill her. He's just tired. Like, oh my god, Sarah Lance talks about Anthony Ivo the way I talk about Malcolm Merlin. I mean, I don't condone what Sarah's doing, but, like, I can't fault her for it. Like, Laurel goes back to see Adam Donner yet again, and she's like, listen, I know the truth about Sebastian Blood, okay? Maya Rezic is his mom. He killed his father. We need to lock him up. And Adam is like, Laurel, no. Okay, I took Vertigo on live TV. I am as discredited as you could possibly get. I cannot be putting a case together against Starling City's golden child right now. Like, we can't do this. Oliver goes to talk to Roy, and he's like, hey, Roy, how you doing? And Roy's like, I'm fine, leave me alone. Laurel has been rejected by literally everyone, okay? Lance won't help her. Adam won't help her. Oliver won't help her. Everyone in her life thinks she's crazy, so she needs the help of the vigilante, of course. So she calls up the vigilante, and he goes to meet with her, and they have this really funny little conversation where she says, you're late. And then the Arrow replies, I had to circle around the block to make sure there wasn't a SWAT team waiting for me again. And Laurel replies, That's fair. Laurel asks for the Arrow's help to figure out if Sebastian Blood really is evil. And Oliver goes back to Team Arrow. He conveys all of this information to them. Diggle is like, are we sure about this? Like, can we really trust Laurel? I think you might have a blind spot where Laurel is concerned. And Oliver's like, no, it's time for the best scene in the entire show. Okay, period. This is the best scene in the entire show. All right. So Sin goes to meet Roy in a back alley somewhere. This is the conversation that they have. Asking a cute girl to meet you down by the tracks. Hey, Harper. Good thing Thea and I are tight. I have to show you something.
Easy there, Tiger.
Easy there, Tiger had me laughing for, I kid you not, 5 minutes. I had to pause the whole show. I had to get up. I had to take a walk. I could not stop laughing. I love Sin, and I really, really want to give Sin the favorite character award. Like, she's so close. I feel like I should give her an award, so I gave her the laughing crying emoji. And that signals that Sin is the funniest character in season 2. Sin is great. So, this conversation ends with Roy telling Sin that now that he's super strong, he wants to use his newfound superpowers to go and take down bad guys. And he doesn't want to tell Thea, but he thinks Sin will be cool with it, and Sin is cool with it. Felicity cannot hack into the file on Sebastian Blood's mother because it's too old, okay? It's not in the computer system, so if they want the file, they're gonna have to break in. So the Arrow goes to talk to Laurel because Laurel has a key to the room with all the files, so they team up to go get this file. On the island, while Oliver is asleep, Sarah steals the radio. Laurel and the Arrow sneak in to this file room. They steal the file. Outside the building, when Laurel finally opens the file, it is completely empty. There is not a single thing in it. Sin goes up to Roy and she's like, hey, Roy, I found you a bad guy, okay? He's the Starling City slasher, all right? This guy goes after prostitutes and he kills them. And Roy's plan is to use Sin as bait. So he has Thea dress Sin up, and then he's gonna use Sin as bait to catch the Starling City slasher. Oliver goes to see Sebastian, and he tells her that Laurel is acting strange, like she's not thinking clearly, and then Sebastian says, I'll take care of Laurel. The slasher takes the bait. He comes after Sin. He gets Sin in his car. They go to a parking lot. Roy is, of course, following behind. Roy rips the car door straight off its hinges, and he starts fucking beating the Starling City slasher near to death, okay? Sin has to push Roy off of him so that he doesn't kill this guy, because the plan was to get him arrested. It wasn't to get him killed. So they call an ambulance. Slide Wilson goes to confront Sebastian Blood about the whole Laurel thing. He says, you need to deal with Laurel, or I will. Sebastian, he has a plan, okay? So he calls his cop friend, Officer Daly. He has Officer Daly go to Laurel's house, and they arrest Laurel for possession of drugs. They search her whole house, and they find some pills. And they're not her pills, they're her father's pills. She stole them. So they arrest her. At the police station, Lance goes up to Laurel, and he's like, hey, why did you steal my pills? What's that about? And then she's like, I didn't, okay, it's all a setup. Sebastian is setting me up, okay? He's making me look crazy, okay? This is all Sebastian. And then Lance is absolutely not having it. He's like, Laurel, you clearly have an addiction, okay? And you cannot blame that on Sebastian Blood. On the island, Sarah, it's nighttime, remember? Sarah just stole this radio, so she radios to Ivo, and then Ivo proceeds to try and gaslight the shit out of her, and oh my god, it's working, alright? He's like, Sarah, I need you to come back to me. Sarah, come back to me. I need your help. Bring me the Mirakuru. We can save humanity together. Sarah, I need you, Sarah, please. And it's working. Okay, so now I'm starting to understand why Sarah is so brainwashed by this guy, because he is a master manipulator. Okay, Anthony Ivo, gaslighter supreme. He's no Malcolm Merlin, alright, but can't really blame Sarah there. At the hospital, Sin and Roy are at the hospital. Starling City slasher, they brought him to the hospital. He's gonna be okay. Thea shows up, and she's like, what happened? Who is this guy? And then Roy refuses to tell Thea what's going on. Sin also doesn't tell Thea the truth because she respects Roy's wishes. And then Roy walks like 5 feet down the hall, sits on the ground, and then starts crying. Oliver takes Laurel home from the police station. When they get back to her apartment, they get attacked by the man in the skull mask. Oh my god. And they take Laurel and they knock Oliver out. And then the guy in the skull mask says, and I quote, "Leave him, he's not important." The gasp, I gasped. But when Oliver comes to after being knocked out, he calls Felicity. Felicity starts typing away at her computer. Oliver goes to like dress up as the Hood and try and save the day. So turns out the guy in the skull mask, not Sebastian Blood, it was Officer Daly. Laurel ends up shooting Officer Daly in the chest like 6 times, okay? I'm pretty sure he's dead. I'm pretty sure. Like, even on Mirakuru, like, that's 6 shots to the heart. Laurel just killed a man. Rip Officer Daly. At the police station, Laurel is shook, okay? She's like, I cannot believe that wasn't Sebastian. Like, she was fully expecting the man behind the hood to be Sebastian, and it wasn't. It was this Officer Daly guy, so Sebastian Blood really is innocent, and she really is crazy. I do want to say that shooting a man 6 times is a very girl boss thing to do, so it is time to give Laurel Lance the Girl Boss Award. Laurel Lance is our season 2 girl boss. Congratulations. She has been gaslit this entire show. She's suffering. Her life is nothing but pain and suffering, and she still continues to girl and boss. It's well deserved. Also, at the police station, Adam goes up to Laurel and he says, "Hey Laurel, you're fired from the DA." Bestie is not having a good night, okay? Girl boss supreme Laurel Lance is having probably the worst night of her life, okay? She's being gaslit by the entire world. She lost her job, and she was arrested. She also killed a man. Like, she's not really having the best night of her life right now. Oliver goes back to Team Arrow, and he's like, you're right, I do have a blind spot for Laurel, and it won't happen again, okay? She was wrong about Sebastian. She's probably gonna be wrong about stuff in the future, so I'm never gonna trust her again. Back on the island, Sarah radios to Ivo. She finally answers him, and she's like, I'm not helping you. She's able to resist his charms and temptations. She tells him to fuck right off. She says she's not gonna give him the Mirakuru. She's not gonna turn on Slade and Oliver. She is not associating with him anymore. He freaks out immediately, starts screaming at her. He calls her a bitch, and he threatens to torture her and Oliver and Slade. Oliver overhears this whole thing, and he's like, Sarah, you did the right thing. So they band together to go and find Slade and get the Mirakuru back, and they're gonna take down Ivo. Sebastian goes to see Slade, and he's like, hey, I took care of Laurel. Everything is fine. Slade, pissed, okay? Slade Wilson kills 3 of Sebastian Blood's men just for shits and giggles. And then he's like, if you fuck up again, I'll kill you next, alright? You think you're not replaceable? I can replace you. We also get our first look at Slade Wilson in the Deathstroke costume. Also, worthy of noting the music that plays every time we see Deathstroke. Crazy. It goes like, Wah! The final scene of this episode is the Hood asking Roy to be his little apprentice, okay? And Roy obviously says yes, okay? So Roy Harper is now in his Robin era, okay? We're having a little Batman and Robin moment here. Okay, but Roy still does not know that Oliver is the Arrow. In episode 11, Oliver gave 12 dramatic speeches, 5 smart remarks, 38 dramatic pauses, and I laughed at him 7 times. Laurel had 6 dramatic speeches, she had 26 dramatic pauses, and she killed 1 person. That was a crazy episode. That was a crazy one. That was a wild ride. Slade Wilson is Deathstroke. I'm Slade Wilson.